Well, welcome, everyone. I'm sure you've probably watched plenty of these videos by now, and I know mine's coming out a bit later since my upload schedule is a bit later than everyone else's, and I didn't have the time to just kind of sit down and pump a video out between my job and, doing this as more of a hobby and part-time right now. But I thought I might as well put in my 2 cents, even though it's a little late for whenever you view this, but also, you know, you've probably heard everything that I'm about to say and more said time and time again. But my main thing here with the layoffs at Destiny and the situation coming with that and the information that we have and what we've seen unfold on social media, I don't know how we get here again. I really, really, really don't. I have mainly two emotions, which is obviously disappointment. Honestly, it's depressing to see again, in all honesty, but also somewhat anger. I don't know how we had the first round. We were promised and told over and over again that they were going to do everything to avoid it again. Now, granted, there was one time where Bungie said they would pull that lever again if they had to, but that was more so in relation to Sony stepping in, that if they had to pull the lever to prevent Sony from stepping in, then they would. I don't understand how we're here. Like, granted, I'm not someone who thought Lightfall was bad. I thoroughly enjoyed Lightfall. I played through all of Lightfall. I grinded a bunch of shit in Lightfall. I found all of the secrets in Lightfall. But I did understand that the general consensus was that Lightfall wasn't really received that well. So, to go from something like Lightfall, where you're told that it doesn't perform very well and that things are not going well for the game, to then have something like the final shape, which was phenomenal on every single front. I could not find really a massive problem with Lightfall outside of some glitches and small things like that. But in terms of players and what I assumed from sales and things like that, there were so many people coming back. There were so many players that hadn't played the game for years that were coming back. They were they were wanting to return. They were excited to return. And so many others, so many other people played the game. People who said they weren't going to play it ended up purchasing the game. So many people said that they were done playing Destiny because of Lightfall and how things were going, that they were, I don't even know how to put it. They were, they were just done. People were done with the game. And they came back. They returned. So many people bought it, and maybe not, of course, the premium, like annual pass edition, whatever, but I would have thought that with that, we would have been in a better spot than ever. But apparently, from what we've seen, that's not the case. And I think that's why we're seeing such a big call to action for Pete to step down, because there's no way you can blame anything in the company outside of yourself at this point. You are the CEO, you're the one who makes these decisions. And even for me, I mean, I do appreciate the candidness of the message that we were given, but I also don't appreciate the fact that you're not taking any personal responsibility for the way that things are going. We're getting a PR Bungie was overly ambitious. I don't think the people under him or the people who worked at Bungie were that ambitious. I don't think they wanted to be put on 4 or 5 different incubation projects. They didn't have a choice. They were told they were being moved. And I don't think that they would have, come out and said all of the things they have on Twitter, and not only about you, but about the pay being an issue and about the work being an issue and how things were revealed to certain teams before, they even knew it was coming. There's just so many awful things that have been coming out about the inner workings of Bungie that you start to look at it and wonder, like, what could have been done. And the only thing that you can point to is that it's not like leadership like Luke Smith and them who are now gone, even though Luke Smith was out here tweeting and trying to give us all this hope for Destiny and to be hopeful and things like that, and now you kicked him out and he deleted every single tweet that he put out there. It has got to be leadership at the top of the ladder that is making these decisions, pushing the studio to be overly ambitious, pushing the studio to be spread too far and too thin, and yet the only person we see that has never even considered not being a part of that equation is Pete. And so I can't agree with people's call to action for him to step down. I can see that. I understand. The cars thing, I mean, he's doing what he can with his salary, but it still doesn't look good after the conversations and the tweets I've seen from Leanna. About, 2 days before he fired everyone and he knew he was firing people, he was offering to, like, show his cars to people in the office. And it's one of those things where, like, I kind of had a rant about it on stream, and I hate how these CEOs, these company owners and everything, they just lack this perception. They don't care about the public perception. At this point, I'm going to tell you, and that I wholeheartedly believe, Pete doesn't give a fuck about the players. From everything I've seen from every developer that's been fired, laid off, that was in the first round of layoffs, they all talk about how they were all for the player experience and asking them to keep the players in mind, and Pete just didn't listen. He didn't care. He only cares about the numbers that are in his bank account and that are on his pay stubs. And he doesn't care that his employees' pay stubs are not enough to sustain themselves, but still wants them to be passionate. This is just this constant case of stupid, unethical greed that we see across the industry. Like, we even talked about it on stream with me and another person in chat. We talked about how if we were making that kind of fuck you money, where, I have $1 million sitting around in my bank account, I don't need to be making that kind of money. Like, we were talking that, like, $500,000 a year, even for a CEO, would be amazing. That type of money goes a long way, and I don't think people understand how far that money can go when you get into that upper echelon of payouts. $1 million for even the way I live right now with my girlfriend and everything, that would last me years. Years. Sure, would I spend maybe a chunk of it here and there? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely I would. But would I continue to siphon that salary in a position like Pete's, where I have a game studio and the thing that has to be our focus is earning players' trust, keeping players' trust, and putting out good content? Absolutely not. I would make sure that everyone feels fairly compensated enough, whether that means cutting my salary or not, to fill in those gaps in other areas, because at the end of the day, I understand that the thing that's going to inspire and motivate some people is money, and the thing that's going to inspire and motivate some people is the culture at the end of the day. And so people's pay will cover both of those ends. If people feel like they're well compensated for the job that they do and the things that they do, then they'll continue to do them. And they'll, be motivated because the pay is good and they're doing something that's fun or passionate to them. And then the others who, want the good culture to stick around, when people are compensated fairly, they're willing to deal with a lot more and not necessarily treat it as such a major complaint. Because then they say, well, yeah, this is an annoying thing, but the pay is good enough to balance that out. And that helps the culture because people are comfortable, people are happy. And especially when we talk about gaming. There's going to be people who are like, oh, this will never work in this business and that business. And it's like, tell me that whenever you're a business owner instead of some random dude on the internet just trying to start an argument for argument's sake. Especially in gaming, we are talking about people who are passionate about model design, passionate about writing lore, passionate about building a universe and shocking people and wowing people with these, art pieces and art direction and things like that. That type of passion needs to be nurtured. It can't be exploited how we've seen with Bungie. It can't be exploited that way. one of the biggest talents for me, which shocks me and is just unbelievable. Unbelievable that they have been laid off, um, is Hazel Monforton. I cannot believe that this individual is being laid off when they've given us such amazing lore entries and lore cards and things like that. They've had so much focus on, the lore all over the grimoire cards, Drifter, Eris, Hive stuff. She has given us some of the best lore cards, especially the ones surrounding Xivu Arath, where, we've seen the back and forth of the throne and Xivu's kind of breakdown and spiral into madness and everything. I don't understand how they are gone. And I don't understand how Luke Smith and the narrative director that just gave us Final Shape, the narrative director and the people who just gave us Final Shape, one of the best expansions that I have ever played to date, to end the story off. It had me crying, it had me laughing, it had me ecstatic, it had me worried, it had me shocked. It gave me everything I would have wanted from an expansion, to where I was sad and I had that feeling, that empty feeling once I was done, and I haven't had that for a while. But tell me how it makes sense to have that success and then kick out everyone who gains you that success. Where does that leave us? Where the fuck do we go from here with those people gone? You know? I just I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel, and if I do, the bulb's about to go out. Because this is... I would never expect these people to be gone, especially Hazel, because for her, finding her Twitter and finding out that she has been on projects that are within my top 5 games ever, Destiny being one of them, Dishonored being one of them. She even wrote things for Dishonored. It is a crazy, wild, wild, wild thing to me to think that someone like that is gone. I why? Who are, I mean, like, and it's not to discredit the other people and the other amazing talent at Bungie, but it's one of those things where, like, these are people who just gave you everything you enjoyed for the past couple months, and now they're gone. You don't know what the quality looks like from here, and yes, I know there's news of, like, smaller content packs, and we're still gonna get raids and destinations and campaigns, but on a much smaller scale. And I don't know. I don't know if Frontiers will be able to keep my attention as much as especially Final Shape did. I don't think they'll be able to replicate that with cutting costs and cutting people like this over and over again. But in reality, the biggest cost that we need to cut is Pete. He's not only a cost to the people, he's not only a cost to the player base, he's a cost to Sony, and he's just a cost to the company. He's going to one day put the company on the table and sell everyone off to save his own skin. I fully, wholeheartedly believe that after this point. We were assured at the beginning of the Sony acquisition that layoffs wouldn't occur, and here we are in the second round, and it's just not even worth... It's not even worth, like, fighting anymore. It's almost like watching... And I don't want to say it's entirely a glass house, but it's almost like we're on the outside just watching a war happen. And watching these poor people fall one after one to this entity that's just like, you are worth less to me when I need to save my own behind. Like, you're expendable, you're replaceable, and I will pull that trigger if I need to. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Please, even, if you're on Twitter, X, whatever, please retweet the people who have been laid off. I've retweeted Hazel and a bunch of the other people. You know, it's the best way for us to support them right now and help them through this time, because it is it's going to be hard for them, especially in the gaming industry. We've seen not only layoffs from Bungie, but layoffs all across the industry. There's calls for workers to unionize. There's all sorts of, calls to action going on. But the biggest thing is just, if you see the person saying that they were impacted by the layoffs, at least give them a retweet or repost, just so that they can have more reach. Even, if it's from a smaller account, even like myself, we can at least help them in some shape or form to continue their jobs, continue their passion, and hopefully we'll see them on other projects that we also love, maybe as much as we love Destiny. And, I'm sure not a lot of people want to talk about it, but if you feel like talking about it, I'll be keeping an eye on the comments as usual. Let me know how you feel about everything. Are you weirdly optimistic? Are you back into the good old meme we've seen over and over again of it being Jover? And do you see the "we're so back" coming around the corner ever again? If not, let me know. Let me know what you're focused on, and maybe what you'll be moving on to. I know I've been enjoying the First Descendant, but obviously getting to a point where it's just a hard grind, kind of like how Destiny was at a certain point. I do get bored kind of fast in terms of the hard grind. Sometimes I'll sit there for hours and go for the things that I'm going for, but a lot of the times it'll be spending an hour, hour and a half, maybe, just grinding for what I'm going for, and then go to do something else. I'm going to be playing a lot of other games on stream here soon, thinking about starting Baldur's Gate again, and then also Ready or Not. I've had an itch to play that game, so next week we will be playing some of that quite a bit. So if there's anything else you guys would like to see me talk about, even on a more serious note, or even in just the lore that I've been following up until this point, please let me know. I do need some recommendations just to keep the content wagon rolling, and at least for now, I will see you guys in the next one.